welcome to round 11 of the GB4 Championship taking place at Snetterton in East Anglia. We're not in East Anglia, we're here at Zandvoort. JJ and PP here, the most alliterative presentation duo that exists in motorsports, I believe. We don't have any drivers with any alliteration in their names, but we do have some excellent young drivers in this championship. Alicia Palmowski starts on pole position for this second race. Did yesterday, and I mean Lucas Blakely right behind her, the race one winner from yesterday. I think we're going to see a little bit of a battle off the front row in this race, Piers.
I think we're almost certainly going to get a battle in this race. Alicia Palmowski was fastest in qualifying, double pole position of course, but Blakely yesterday, he got away at the start, just drove away from the field. A brilliant drive from him. We saw the emotional scenes after the race as he was so happy to take his first in the GB4 Championship. But hey, we're going to have another good race. And we also saw racing down the field as well.
Yeah, I can understand your confusion. Yes, we have GB3 mics. Yes, we're here in Zandvoort, but we are hosting GB4, 152 miles away, as we said earlier on, closer to here than Snetterton is to Alton Park, but let me not repeat myself too much. This is round 11, that's coming up very, very soon, but let's see what happened in round 10 then, as Lucas Blakely took his debut victory in the GB4 Championship.
And so highlights then for the race here at Snetterton. And again, it was an excellent start from Lucas Blakely. To the outside of Palmowski he would go and straight up to the race lead. Lucas Blakely to the front of the field. Alicia Palmowski then having to fend off the likes behind of Harry Burgoyne Jr. as they would work their way down into the Wilson hairpin. Burgoyne Jr. would go around the outside and attempt to try and make the move to make it a KMR Sport 1-2, but was unable to do so. Meanwhile, their teammate, Chloe Grant, further down the order, really getting embroiled in a fight. The fight we were really focused on, though, was between Leon Wilson and Callum Baxter. Callum Baxter with the inside line, the number 45, was really struggling to get past Wilson, who was doing everything he could to defend. Chloe Grant was joining the scene trying to get around the outside, but finally there were some moves coming in. Baxter down the inside would finally get that one done at the Wilson hairpin, and Chloe Grant would come through as well. However, contact between the pair of them would see Wilson taking off Chloe Grant's rear wing, and down down into the pit lane she would go. Of course, into the final corner, it would be Lucas Blakely to take victory in fantastic fashion, of course, from Palmowski and Burgoyne Jr.
It really is an amazing achievement, isn't it, Piers, for Lucas Blakely to come from being the F1 sim racing champion to driving in GB4 a bit last year and coming into GB4 again this year and winning that first race. An incredible drive from him.
Yeah, he's not exactly brand new to real car racing. Of course, he did, as you mentioned, GB3 with us once or twice last year.
GB4. Don't read the mics.
GB4.
That's the rule.
GB4 with us once or twice last year and has, I believe, done some other racing in like Fords and stuff. But nonetheless, to jump in literally with very little notice, just 1 or 2 test days, and then put it right at the front row and then win the race in such a dominant fashion, yeah, really impressive.
And looking at the second row of the grid, Harry Burgoyne, who finished third yesterday, alongside Linus Granfors. That's going to be a little bit of a battle there. There's going to be certainly some pressure on the drivers at the front row in this race, because we know that they can make good starts, and we know especially what Linus can do.
Yeah, well, Linus was dominant, and I think he got 4 wins in a row, didn't he? So up till for this weekend, very, very fast. We know that Fortec have got the GB4 car dialed pretty more often than not. We've seen that in years gone by. Of course, they were rapid last year with Colin Queen, won the championship the year before with Nick Taylor. So, yeah, there we go.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's hear from Finn Harrison now. Naomi's been chatting with him.
Finn, interesting race out there. How did you find it in the car?
Pretty boring at the end of the race. There was sort of no one there, no one I could fight with. Just did what I had to do with what I had to got, and did my job really. Just brought it home, clean, racing, thoughtful, and overall we had a good start. Got held up slightly, and then managed to get 5th place, and we held on to that for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and we talked about the weather, and did any of that affect your tyres at all, the fluctuation of the sun coming out?
Not really that badly. I sort of got away with it a bit, but we definitely know as a team what we need to work on to get it a bit easier and a bit quicker.
And looking forward to tomorrow, what are you looking to achieve in race 2?
Same again, just great, get more points back. We lost a lot of points at Donington and Alton. I'm just trying to recover from those 2 races really.
Well done, thank you.
Well, there we go. Good to hear from Finn Harrison, starting 6th in this race in a short while, very, very soon. Piers, we did see a cool little battle in yesterday's race, a little bit further down the field, with Chloe Grant kind of watching on from behind very patiently and then coming a bit of a cropper.
Unfortunately, yeah, not Chloe's fault. Leon Wilson was right underneath the rear wing of Chloe Grant, and a tiny amount of contact, really, when Leon was just trying to go from the left to the right-hand side on the way to the bomb hole. Just basically pulled the whole rear of the car off for Chloe Grant, and with no rain line, no rear crash structure, and no rear wing, couldn't continue. And Leon Wilson got, I'm pretty sure he got disqualified for that. He got a hefty penalty. So not the way that either of those would have liked the race to go, but it was great racing up until that point. For the previous almost 4 laps, it was side by side, pretty much every corner, cutbacks, good move, drivers racing close, but giving each other just enough room. And it was only a small mistake that was unfortunately the end of both of their races.
Yeah, terrible luck for Chloe Grant there. Chloe, one of several female drivers we have on the grid in the GB4 Championship. Obviously, Alicia Pomorski starting on pole position. And there's also Megan Bruce and Naomi caught up with Megan earlier.
Megan, a quite eventful race out there. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was good at the start. I had a good battle with Jack and held on for a while until went slightly wide at turn 4 and then he got me. So yeah, but it was good at the start.
And how was it to get that kind of racecraft experience?
Definitely really good, and it's just learning more each time, you know. And good to have a battle with him and try, staying in front for quite a few laps. And yeah, it's definitely getting there.
And looking forward to race 2 tomorrow, how are you going to kind of take this through and hopefully continue the good racing?
I think I need to get a better start and try jump one of the 4 tech cars again, and then hopefully we can stay with the pack, just because me and Jack lost a bit to the back of the other pack at the start, so if we can get onto there, then we can move up.
Thank you very much, Megan. Well done. Thank you.
Megan Bruce there with Fox Motorsports, one of the other female competitors on the grid. The race coming up very, very soon, Piers, at Snetterton. It's a track that we've been to many, many times. It was the host of the first ever GB4 race. Just tell me about the track before we see the track guide.
It's technical, actually, Snetterton. In 2011, got a new layout with the infield section, but it's got some high-speed corners. Turn 1 at Riches and Coram, and the last sector, Bombhole and Coram, is pretty much flat out, or almost flat out in the GB4 cars, and Turn 1 Riches just a lift. But then that middle sector, the circuit narrows down. You've got some corners that switch back on themselves, lots of over 180-degree corners, overtaking opportunities, but also because the circuit is somewhat narrow, there's not a huge amount of space to, if the driver in front defends, not a huge amount of space to work with. So it's a unique challenge, a little bit of undulation, and a lot of corners that also sort of go from one to another. Brundle and Nelson into the last sector, braking and turning one way into the other. It really teaches the drivers how to get the most out of a single-seater racing car, which is a great challenge. And we've also seen mistakes from drivers at Snetterton in the past, most notably, potentially, from our eventual championship winner in 2022, Nick Taylor, who spun on his own in Brundle and Nelson. So, tricky track, makes for good racing.
Have you got any positive memories from your racing time at Snetterton?
Yeah, I do actually. I really liked Snetterton. It really suited me, especially when the old spec GB3 cars, or British F3 as it was at the time, and the middle sector, Hamilton, the left-hander before Oggies, was nearly flat out, and if the wind was in the right direction, the first corner was flat out. Not quite flat out in these GB4 cars, but it's a circuit that requires finesse and precision, because getting the right line is really important to a good lap time.
Yeah, well, we'll take a technical look at the track now. Lewis McGlade will talk you through the track guide for the race ahead of the race here at Snetterton.
And so the Snetterton circuit, of course, where the GB4 Championship first ever ran back in 2022. It's an iconic circuit all the way around, with so many overtaking opportunities. The race down into the Wilson hairpin, the race down into Agostini. Of course, 2 large stretches on the Bentley Straight, and of course the Senna Straight, the start-finish one, where there are plenty of opportunities to make your way up the order. And so much history has already been made around this Snetterton 300 circuit. Of course, it's one of the circuits which is in the slew of post-World War II RAF bases that was turned into a racetrack, and it has stood the test of time since the 1950s. Of course, not much elevation around here at just 9 metres all the way around, the lowest point basically being the Agostini hairpin, and potentially around where Bombhole is. Of course, the 12 turns all separated by some pretty wide open straights. And so with that, we'll take a little look on board with Dan Hickey and a view around the Snetterton 300 circuit. Of course, that race down into the first corner at the end of the centre straight, really chuck it in to the right-hander at Riches at turn 1 before letting the steering open up, drop down the gears, obviously 6th gear and arguably one of the highest speeds that you reach around the circuit, straight down into second and chuck it into the Wilson hairpin. Got the gears nice and cleanly, put it back over to the right-hand side of the racetrack before you drop a gear or two and throw the car into, of course, Palmer, and that prepared down into Agostini, where you want to bring it back over to the left-hand side before you move it back over to the right into the braking zone. Quite tricky here into Agostini. It's slightly more of a medium speed hairpin rather than a super slow one, because you can carry a lot of speed on the exit and that run up towards Hamilton. This is a very quick corner, especially in a car like this, basically keeping the foot as close to being pinned as possible before you get into the braking zone, the bumpy braking zone, of course, at Oggies, before heading into Williams and then out onto the Bentley straight. Really important corner to get right here. Got to find that slightly later apex. Make sure you don't run too far out wide. That's caught out a couple of drivers in the history of GB4, the likes of Megan Gilks, who ran out there in our very first meeting and caused a couple of problems for her car. Got to be careful without running too far wide there. Into the braking zone, the braking zone that you're constantly turning in at Brundle and Nelson. Throw it through the left-hander, pull it as far left as possible before you flick it through the right-hander at Nelson, and then preparing for the final few corners into Bomb Hole. Completely flat up through there. Preparation for Coram as well, where you'll be feathering the throttle basically all the way around. It's probably quite flat in these cars as you let it bounce off the limiter almost in 5th gear, then dropping down a couple of gears into the final corner as they head out through Murray's and then out onto the centre straight. That is an onboard look of the Snetterton 300 circuit here for GB4.
And that's riding on board with Dan Hickey. You might have seen his social media, absolutely fantastic. He's got like a little camera. I don't know, do you know what the little camera is?
No, it's really impressive though. The shots that he gets, I mean, you've just seen it. That's literally the driver's eye view, or maybe a centimetre above, and you can see quite how little of the corners you can see from sitting down low. Just about see the tops of the tyres, and then the rev lights, and you see how much the driver's work in the car as well. Thanks very much to Dan Hickey for letting us see that. And there's plenty more of those on his Instagram.
I was going to say, on his Instagram, he's got like a pre-race ritual where he's actually in the assembly area getting into his car, and it's absolutely fascinating to see the sort of driver's eye view of what it is. Did you have any little rituals when you were just about to get in the car? Like, was it 1 foot first, or did you get in the car from a certain side?
Oh, I actually did. I'm not a superstitious person, but I don't know what it is. I always put everything on left first. So it was left glove, left boot, left shoe, left sock, and I always used to get in. I can't remember which side. I used to get in one side, I can't remember which side, but a lot of the drivers, it's not like they need to do it. It's not like a ritual as per se, but it's just like it just feels right. And part of the getting mentally ready to go out and race is putting yourself in the best mental state to concentrate. And if everything feels right, you feel in control, you feel relaxed, and everything's working for you, you know the plan, you're going to be able to perform at your best, which is why a lot of the drivers will have, you know, warm-up routine. They put their gear on at a certain time before they go out, then they get in the car at a certain time, and then the team say certain things and give them certain information, and that's it. So yeah, it helps them perform at their best.
And of course, he'll start 10th as well, Dan Hickey. And of course, the drivers will be getting into the car in a different way next year, because we've got a brand new car for 2025 in the GB4 Championship. Looks the same as the GB3 Championship this year, but a slightly modified version.
We say it looks the same, it looks similar, because there are some small changes. So the GB3 tubs are being moved over to GB4, so we'll see the halo being moved over. Of course, the increase in safety with the halo is also coupled with some increase in safety in terms of side impact protection. And also we've got some aerodynamic upgrades, of course, as well. So more downforce on the rear wing, a little bit of a probably increase in downforce on the front wing, but it's only a single plane front wing, so hopefully we'll still have some nice clean racing. And also some changes to the engine as well. We're moving away from the turbocharged engines to a 2-litre naturally aspirated.
Now
engine.
tell me what naturally aspirated means, Piers, because that's a term that's relatively new to me.
Okay, so naturally aspirated means that it just breathes air like we do. Air goes straight into the engine.
Are you naturally aspirated?
I am naturally aspirated.
Oh, I love that.
But
It must be all the water you drink, yeah.
But then a turbocharged engine, which the GB4 car is right now, it has effectively a fan on the exhaust, which is connected to a fan in the air intake, which blows more air in so you get more power, but that's why they sound a bit muted. Whereas the GB3 cars, I'm sure if you've heard those, they sound a bit raspy, a bit racier, naturally aspirated, so it sounds better. But the power actually won't be too dissimilar. So some really good improvements in terms of safety, performance, and it should still be a cost-effective championship, hopefully.
So if you're a young driver who is doing GB4, obviously looking to maybe go into GB3, it's going to be quite familiar, I guess, if you step into a GB3 car after doing maybe a season or two in GB4.
I didn't catch the first half, but I think I knew where you're going with it. So
I'll tell you what. Guess what I said. Let's play a game.
It's going to be a good step up again to go from GB4 to GB3. We've seen Colin Queen do it. We've seen Jared Boberski do it. But both cars, GB4 and GB3, are improving next year. But GB3 is going to be notably faster, so it'll be a bigger jump for the drivers.
That's literally what I said. Congratulations. No, I was basically saying, obviously, with a halo, for example. I know that's something from the cars we have now, the GB4 cars we have now. You don't have the halo, but we've spoken to some of the drivers like Colin Queen, and actually, once you just get in the car, you don't really see the halo because it is in the middle of your vision. Yeah. It's also something we've seen in the GB3 Championship because they've now got the radio that they can radio to their team. Obviously, they've stuck an aerial in there, and I'm there going as a non-driver. Well, that'll be annoying. I see that all the time. And actually, as soon as you get in there, that doesn't distract you at all.
No, it doesn't. In these cars, we saw Dan Hickey's onboard. You sit so low that you have to look so far ahead of where you're at, of the car. It's a bit like putting your finger in front of your face at arm's length. You can look past it, and after half a lap, you just forget it's there for the rest of the season. So a real increase in safety, not really much reduction in visibility, along with all the other upgrades that we're getting in GB4 and GB3 for next year. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like as we move into 2025.
Well, look, before we go over and see the assembly area in GB4, let's just talk about this front row grid, right? And you're going into the first corner at Snetterton. You're sitting there, you're Lucas Blakely, for example, looking to take the lead early on. What's your plan into that first corner?
It's all about the start. We saw it yesterday. Blakely got away from the line well, and that gave him the advantage into turn one, and that's the most important thing. So he'll try and replicate that. But Alicia Palmowski, she'll know what she didn't do. She'll know what she didn't do to get a good start yesterday, so she'll have to try and do better today, I suppose.
Excellent stuff. Well, look, the cars are on their way out. So for the second time this weekend, let's go racing in the GB4 Championship.
Ten races down, 11 left to go. It is the halfway point of GB4, which began at Alton Park and then Silverstone, of course, with Donington Park, and then a fairly long break until we went racing here at Snetterton. The journey still sees us going to Silverstone once again, and then, of course, to Donington Park and West Kingsdown in Kent, where we'll see the season finale at Brands Hatch. Focusing on this weekend, as we've said before, it's where the journey began, the Snetterton 300 circuit. What a dramatic race it was yesterday, and a fantastic victory for Lucas Blakely. Will he be able to do it again, though? The sun once more is out here at Snetterton. It looks fantastic, and it is a lovely day for racing around one of Britain's most iconic circuits. So many places to go racing around here, the likes of Wilson, the likes of Agostini, Brundle Nelson, and of course that final corner at Murray's, where plenty of opportunities go begging. And let's not forget, all of the corners which you'll have to navigate cleanly to work your way around. Hamilton, Oggies, which is very difficult as well. The likes of Bombhole and Coram as well, over the 3 miles of racetrack. Not much elevation around here, just 9 metres all the way around this circuit. Again, that lowest point being into the Brundle Nelson, Agostini and Bombhole section over just the 12 turns of racing. So much drama to deal with, though, and so much to talk about. With the second half half of the season, though, beginning. There's a lot to deal with when it comes to the Championship Challenge, which, of course, sees Linus Granfors being closed in on ever so slightly by the groups behind. Will that happen once more in this race? We'll have to wait and see. You can see they've begun their formation lap and are working their way round. And so here is the starting grid. Alicia Palmovsky finished second yesterday. She started from pole position once again. Lucas Blakely took the race lead on the race start. He'll be starting from second, looking for a second victory. Harry Burgoyne Jr. looks to pull further clear in the championship. He'll be starting from third position alongside championship leader Linus Granfors. That's on row 2. Behind all of that, of course, we'll see the likes of Callum Baxter, who was embroiled in quite a fight yesterday with the likes of Leon Wilson. Finn Harrison will be starting from 6th position, and of course the halfway point of the grid. Those behind sees Chloe Grant starting from 9th, Jack Taylor starting from 10th. The row we've missed there is Brandon Templeton and Leon Wilson, who'll be starting from 7th and 8th position. The final row of the grid sees Dan Hickey and Megan Bruce starting from the rear of the field. A lot to talk about in this one, and a lot of preparation. Of course, I know everyone was very happy to see the likes of Lucas Blakely taking that first ever victory in GB4. Saw all the social media posts afterwards. He was very, very happy, and rightfully so. It was an excellent drive. Got a lot to deal with, though, to back that one up and maybe set his sights on back-to-back victories. But of course, Alicia Palmovsky, she's focused on something slightly higher, and that is, of course, the championship. Can still move her way back into things when it comes to title contention. Not necessarily too far back. Sits 4th in the championship, 58 points off of Linus Granfors, but with still half the season left to go. Only takes a couple races to click, and then everything turns on its head. She'll be starting this one from pole position. Realistically, I'd have to say, if she wants to win the championship, if she's got aspirations of it, this is a must-win race for her. Starting from pole position, she can't let that one slip through her fingers. Not like she did yesterday. Of course, Lucas Blakely starting alongside. And Harry Burgoyne Jr. and Linus Granfors, two of the drivers that are battling for the championship. Those are the top two in the standings. Of course, you can see in the bottom left the conditions. It's 22 km/h of wind, which is quite fast around here. Although I do believe with it coming from the west, I think it might be a headwind coming down into the Wilson hairpin, which should be pretty good when it comes to overtakes. You can actually see that with where the wind's coming from. It should be quite good coming down to that Wilson hairpin. Should open up the opportunity for a couple of overtakes. Might mean the likes of Riches and then Brundle to Nelson might actually be more tricky than usual just because of how the wind is attacking the cars. They all work their way though into their grid slots and get prepared for 18 minutes of racing. It should be 10 laps around the Snetterton circuit as you can hear them revving their way up. Let's see if Alicia Palmovsky is able to beat Lucas Blakely this time. Lucas Blakely with a very slow start. Also another one from Callum Baxter, who was unable to get going in the Graham Brunton racing car, and it is once again a poor start from Alicia Palmovsky. Harry Burgoyne Jr. and here comes Linus Granfors in the number 16. Harry Burgoyne Jr. then up to the race lead. Linus Granfors up to second. Terrible start from the front row as Alicia Palmovsky's dropped back to third. Lucas Blakely down to fourth as they'll battle their way down into the Wilson hairpin. The contact that sends Linus Granfors out wide. Piers, Pryor, what do you make of that?
Wow, that was a great launch away from the line from Harry Burgoyne Jr. and unfortunately it was Granfors. His front wheel just touched the rear rain light of Harry Burgoyne Jr. or the rear wheel, and it just sent him wide, but he's lived to fight another day. But Palmovsky is now defending from Blakely.
Yeah, Brandon Templeton in the white, blue and orange car went a little bit wide there at Palmer and is now being overtaken by Leon Wilson, who's the one who's just gone out a little bit wide in that very dark, almost black Arden car, just dipping two wheels on the exit of Agostini and does actually complete that move. You can see Callum Baxter here at the rear of the field after that terrible start, just basically stalled it.
Yeah, he must have stalled it because he was stationary and everyone else had gone. Managed to get it started fairly quickly and is up and running in this race. But front of the field, it's the top four. Still pretty close together. Granfors, he was fighting right for the lead, and unfortunately just slightly misjudging that into the Wilson hairpin meant that he's now dropped back to fourth place, but I'm expecting him to be strong come the middle of this race. I'm sure the Fortec team will have made some adjustments overnight to give him some that pace that he was lacking yesterday. Here
comes Baxter down the inside, of course, if Megan Bruce completes that move. So Baxter already starting to rise up the order, as you can see here. We've got Jack Taylor and, of course, Dan Hickey towards the rear of the field. But I will say, Harry Burgoyne Jr. at the front, we've not seen him win in GB4 yet.
Not quite yet, but he's been very, very, very consistent so far, and he's romping away at the front of the field. This would be his potentially, well, as you mentioned, his first win in the championship. Here we go. So a great launch away from the line from Burgoyne. Not so good from our pole sitter Palmovsky. Yeah, Baxter stalled and got it restarted pretty quickly, but good job from all of the drivers behind to avoid that. Burgoyne decisively into the lead. But Grant was actually from the same row of the grid, that second row, doing very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, it's a terrible start from the front row. We obviously didn't see Alicia Palmowski initially on the race start. Let's see this instant then. So, like you say,
it was front wheel to rear rain light, and Burgoyne would have felt that, and is lucky actually that there's no more damage to the rear of the car than we've seen already. Actually, Palmowski now applying some pressure onto the back of our race leader Burgoyne Jr. So that gap has come down at the start of this lap.
Yeah, indeed. Well, there is Harry Burgoyne Jr. leading, but that gap closing down. I was saying this as you were working your way back over to me. I know you're running, sprinting at high speed. You're desperate to see me. It's fine. Alicia Palmowski, this is a must-win race for her. If she wants to go after the championship, it means she's sitting 4th in the championship, 58 points off the championship lead. This is a must-win race for her, surely, to build that second half of the season.
Must win is strong, but it would definitely launch her forward because, of course, she is 4th place in the championship, a fair way back, 58 points from our championship leader, Linus Granfors. So she would be clawing back to the front of the field, but she wants to move up positions. And I mean, the best way to move up in the championship is get as many points, and the best way to get more points is to win races. So both of these will be looking to take the win at the front of the field, but Burgoyne, I'm sure, will be a tricky man to pass.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll be completing 2 laps again. We'll have 8 more around the Snetterton 300 circuit, unless the safety car comes out, which that can obviously certainly adjust things when it comes to the race. But I've got to say, this race definitely ain't over at the front of the field, as Harry Burgoyne Jr. is starting to feel the pressure. They work their way back out onto the centre straight once more. Harry Burgoyne Jr. in the KMR Sport, the grey and blue car that currently leads the way. But Alicia Palmowski in the bright yellow Elite has just set the fastest lap of the race. She's closing her way in. The gap's coming down. There's also some gaps coming down towards the back here. That's Jack Taylor feeling the pressure from Callum Baxter. Alicia Palmowski not close enough to make a move coming down to the hairpin.
Only just not close enough. Gap was just under 4 tenths over the line. Once it gets to below 3 tenths of a second, the move is on, and the closer she gets, the more of a slipstream she will get off the back of Burgoyne. You see Burgoyne soaring away at the wheel through the third corner of Palmer's there, and Merkin pushing hard to try and keep that gap just out of reach from Palmowski, but Palmowski is right there, and no doubt that Burgoyne will see Palmowski in the mirrors, because those elite cars are very, very bright.
I do believe Callum Baxter might actually be trying to make a move on Jack Taylor coming down to Agostini there, because he was, there he is indeed, trying to make that move. He was a little bit wide coming out of Palmer, and that is Baxter not able to get past Jack Taylor as they work through Hamilton now into the braking zone at Oggies, which is incredibly bumpy. You really got it on the onboard lap with Hickey there. You could really see how bumpy that braking zone is into Oggies. It's always been like that.
Yeah, it's a very smooth circuit, the Snetterton 300, but that's the one area that's a little bit undulating. I say undulating, not undulating, it kind of just bumpy.
Just bumpy.
Yeah, it's just bumpy. The braking zone from Oggies is a dip right as you brake, which if you get it wrong can cause you to snatch a tyre. Then through the exit of Oggies, the car's leaning over and you can feel it bubbling around, and then same through the exit of Williams as well. But the rest of the circuit, very, very smooth. And one of the things that makes this one of the more technical circuits on the GB4 calendar.
Yeah, indeed. Well, into the braking zone at the final turn as Harry Burgoyne Jr. still continues to lead, but Lucas Blakely, he's a presence there in 3rd position, obviously eyeing up a 2nd consecutive victory in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and I believe is about to set the fastest lap of this race. They cross the line, certainly is going to be Blakely. Excellent lap time coming in, but look at this from Palmowski. She's closing in. She desperately wants this race lead right now. She's sandwiched between 2 KMR Sport cars. It is an Elite Motorsports Alicia Palmowski sandwich, by the way, with some delicious KMR Sport bread.
Palmowski is applying the pressure continually on the back of Harry Burgoyne. I'm not going to get into the whose sandwich, what flavoured sandwich this is, but all I know is that it's coming together at the front of the field. Blakely starting to show some of that excellent pace that he demonstrated in the first race of this weekend, setting the fastest lap on that last lap, and he's also set the purple first sector at the start of this lap. Oh no, he hasn't actually. Just looking at the last lap. It was the fastest last lap of the race, and it was a good 3 or 4 tenths faster than both of our leading drivers. So Burgoyne potentially just leaving a little bit of margin so he doesn't make a mistake on any of the exits, and Blakely is using that slight pace advantage he has to close down, and it's still 11 minutes to go. This is going to come together, I would say. There's going to be moves. The race may finish in this order, but I don't think it's going to stay in this order throughout.
No, like I say, Harry Burgoyne Jr. is starting to feel that pressure again, trying to break the slipstream as we work our way down into Brundle and Nelson. Alicia Palmowski saying, I'm going to go to the outside, just again, fill in your mirrors, not going for anything just yet. Again, it's really weird to think that Harry Burgoyne Jr. is yet to take a victory. Obviously does have a few podiums, including its 5, I believe it is, this season. Harry Harry Burgoyne Jr. has. So he's been in fantastic form, but it's just that final step to take that victory.
Consistency is what wins you championships, and he's been very, very good at that. Pretty much all results bar one has been inside the top 5. It was only the 3rd race at Donington last time out where he finished in 7th position. But Burgoyne now feeling the pressure. The first proper defensive move from Burgoyne. Stays to the inside for Richards. Palmowski looking around the outside, side by side of the entry. Palmowski's looking for the cutback now.
Yeah, let's see if she can do it. Not going to be close enough. We did see the cut back down into turn 2 was always a little bit tricky yesterday. And here comes Lucas Blakely to try and get to the outside. Blakely's trying to do it. Can't quite find a pathway past. Can't quite make it a KMR Sport 1-2. As once again, just filling the mirrors. The 3 of these separated, well, I mean, it says 0.6 of a second when they were over the start line. That looks less than that to me. Certainly
less than that now, and it's also that weird racing situation where Palmowski was looking for the lead. Because she couldn't get the move done, she was then under pressure from Blakely behind her, but now Palmowski is right under the rear light of Harry Burgoyne Jr. in the lead. Burgoyne in the number 68 we're looking at right now. Palmowski in the yellow number 21, and then the second of the blue. Oh, wide from Burgoyne. First mistake he's made on the exit of Hamilton's. He's looking in his mirrors. Oh, so close contact once again. This time it was Palmowski. A slight touch on the back of Burgoyne's car as Burgoyne cleverly just stopped it on the apex. I don't think any lasting damage at this stage. No, front wing's okay, so this battle will continue.
Yeah, indeed. And like I said, there's plenty of time to deal with it. It'll be 5 laps after this one for Alicia Palmowski to find a way through, but she's feeling the pressure from Lucas Blakely, who's starting to apply it here as Palmowski will get to the outside going into Brundle and Nelson. Can't quite find a way through there. Doesn't want to take too much of a risk. You only really want to go for a move there if you're already side by side. Poor exit though from Harry Burgoyne Jr. as we depart Nelson now through Bombhole up towards Coram, and once again it's extremely close. But also Grand Forces rejoining this fight. We could have 4 for the race lead here. This is going to come down to the hairpin once again.
This is shaping up lovely for the second half of this race. It's all coming together. The top 3 and nearly 4, potentially 5 drivers as Finn Harrison is instead at the start of this lap. He was 4 seconds off. We'll update you in a second. Finn Harrison is now only a second off the lead in 5th place.
Go. Let's see, here comes the move. Alicia Palmowski then will get to the outside going into turn 1. How brave is she going to be? Up towards Richards. Once again, big send on the brakes coming in from Harry Burgoyne Jr. The up and under potentially going to come here from Alicia Palmowski in the bright yellow Elite Motorsports car. Can't quite find a way through. And once again, taking that defensive line, just sitting in the middle of the road, basically. Harry Burgoyne Jr. just able to hang on to the race lead. It's 5 for the lead here.
It is, nose to tail, 5 for the lead. Now Blakely's under pressure from Linus Granfors, our championship leader. So Blakely had it all plain sailing yesterday. Not so much in this second race of the weekend. Ever so slightly pulled out a gap has Palmowski on the from Blakely behind, which is going to allow her a bit more freedom to attack Burgoyne. But how long will that last? Because in just a couple of corners, that gap disappears with the slipstream that we have at this Snetterton 300 circuit. Palmowski certainly looking the most likely to make a move at this stage.
Finn Harrison in 5th position. I mean, he's the lowest down in the championship of all of these lot. I think even if, I'm pretty sure he'll even be behind Lucas Blakely, to be honest, even after that race. It might. No, Lucas Blakely will still be behind. It's fine. But realistically, of the full-time runners, he is one of the lowest down in the championship, outside of the top 10. The thing is, though, is of all of the rounds that we've done, I would argue he has been one of the fastest drivers. Remember back to Alton Park, where I would argue he was the fastest driver at Alton Park and scored absolutely nothing from the Alton Park weekend. He is desperate and hungry for points. We heard it in the interview pre-race.
He did, exactly. He wants to get those points back on the board. He wants to reignite his championship challenge. And while that triple DNF at the start of the year, plus the disqualification at Donington, are leaving him somewhat lacking in points, if he can show the second half of this season that he's one of the fastest drivers, it'll either set him up for a great 2025 as the GB4 Championship moves into a new chapter, or for whatever he does in the future.
Whoa, on the board, my goodness me, Tom Mills passing out the information to Harry Burgoyne Jr. No radios in GB4, of course, so it's just the pit board, the only way that you can communicate. And again, Tom Mills passing on the message. Your P1, mate, keep focused, keep your eye on the prize. And at the moment, it's probably quite hard to keep your eyes full when you've got Alicia Palmowski sitting behind and looking for any sort of opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Burgoyne to ignore the bright yellow machine, the Elite Motorsports number 21 of Palmowski in those mirrors. The mirrors are small on GB4 cars, and they wobble around. It's quite hard to see behind you, not like a road car. Nowhere near as easy as a road car, but if Palmowski starts to just dart around in the mirrors just like that, that is going to keep the pressure on Burgoyne, and he's made a couple of mistakes already so far, hasn't cost him yet, but it'll just be one error, slightly too large, that could be the difference in this race. Mostly a stalemate in this race so far. Haven't seen many moves, but we've seen plenty of jockeying for position, and with just under 6 minutes remaining, things will come to a head, I'm certain of that.
Yeah, indeed. With the lap times we're seeing out for them, it should be 3 at the line. As they'll work their way out onto the back stretch once again, out on the Bentley Straight, of course. And I say the gaps, they're fairly equal, but I will say that it does seem as though, once again, as soon as we get into the second half of the straight, Palmowski's closing in, once again fills the mirrors. Good job our car's bright yellow, isn't it?
It makes it easy to intimidate the cars in front, Lewis, and it's interesting. Into Brundle and Nelson, it's hard to decide which way to defend if Palmowski's very close, because if you defend the inside for Brundle, you're then vulnerable for Nelson, which it flops back the other way, and vice versa. So you kind of have to just hedge your bets as if you're in Harry Burgoyne's position. But still at this stage, Palmowski is the one that looks most likely to make a move, as Granfors and Harrison don't quite have the pace of these front three, as they're just starting to fall off the back of this group once the battling has subsided.
There was a big gap between Granfors, Harrison, and then that group behind, so I wonder if they've used a lot of tyres to close back in. Callum Baxter and Brandon Templeton have switched positions for 7th spot, but it is Harry Burgoyne Jr. remaining as our race leader. You can see there in the battle box at the bottom, basically the pace differential between these two. It's not been great because they've been, the gap between them has not really changed very much over the last few, because they're basically racing each other as hard as they can. There'll only be 3 laps left to go in this one, and Harry Burgoyne Jr. is doing a fantastic job, but can he hang on? He's gone out wide at Palmer. This could open up the opportunity coming down to Agostini. Harry Burgoyne Jr. looking for his first ever victory. Here comes Palmowski straight down the inside in the 21. Is it too deep though for the Elite Motorsports driver? No, it isn't. And Alicia Palmowski hits the front.
That is an absolutely textbook overtake. I don't think Palmowski could have pulled that off better. She stayed very, very right to try and bluff Burgoyne into thinking she wasn't going to make a move. Then at the last second, jinked out, braked in a straight line, just a tiny little lock-up before the apex. Got it stopped at the apex and got a good enough exit to break away in front of Burgoyne, and it looks like she's already pulled a small gap in the middle sector, as now Burgoyne is under pressure from his teammate Blakely.
Yeah, indeed, Blakely's going to try and do something here as Harry Burgoyne Jr. takes the defensive line. Blakely with a big send around the outside of Brundle and Nelson. It's the 68 for Harry Burgoyne Jr., the one at the front of this. That one with the blue helmet, that is Lucas Blakely in the 88, trying to find a move past. Both of them representing KMR Sport, but of course one of those is a full-time driver in the championship and of course a championship protagonist. Meanwhile, Lucas Blakely's here for a jolly good run.
He's doing a very good run indeed. A small mistake through Bumhole and Coram has opened up that gap, and now Blakely's going to be a little bit under pressure from our championship leader. Linus Granfors in the number 16, white and red Overtaking Motorsports car. Granfors this weekend just not quite firing on all cylinders for whatever reason, but if he could salvage a podium in this race, I'm sure he'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, maybe he's not quite buoyed by the excellent drives that we've seen from the GB4 Tech drivers, of course, Colin Queen and Ed Pearson, who put on quite a show earlier on the day here at Zandvoort, but of course here at Snetterton things are slightly different, and Linus Granfors trying to lead the charge. He's still going to be leading the championship comfortably, but the thing is Palmowski taking the victory. That gap, it's being eaten into bit by bit. There's still 2 laps left to go.
Oh, no.
Baxter's gone for a spin at the hairpin.
Oh, so Baxter, after his stall at the start, fighting his way back through the field. Unfortunately, another little spin has put him right to the back of the pack. So a dramatic race for him, not the race he would have wanted, and it's still Granfors that is closest in this group to making an overtaker. We're looking at Finn Harrison here in 5th place, the number 38 Elite Motorsports driver. Not far in terms of time away from the lead and his teammate of Alicia Palmowski, but the margins are so fine at the front of the GB4 Championship this season that, what's that, 2.5 seconds is the difference between 1st and 5th.
Yeah, indeed. It's super tight margins, and again, we do hope there's going to be super tight margins by the time we get to Kent at the end of the year and see a tight battle for the championship, which eluded us last year because Tom Mills was a little bit too good. But yeah, this year, who knows? Who knows? Again, it is a big championship lead for Linus Granfors at the moment, but it does seem to be closing down. We're getting ready for the final lap of the race. Gaps are growing. I think this is going to be a calm end.
I think this is looking like, unless anyone makes any dramatic errors, is going to finish in this sort of position, but it's good to see the drivers fighting so hard on the way through Coram. It really is a unique corner. It goes on for so long. First half of it easily flat out, and then you have to blend off at the throttle, and as you blend off the throttle to slow down towards the end of Coram as it tightens up, you then have to then get on the brakes slowly before you brake in a straight line as much as you can to then go around the last corner. It's a really technical section, and you get it slightly wrong. It's so easy to mess up your exit onto the very, very long start-finish straight, and that's when you're potentially vulnerable.
Yeah, indeed. Final lap of this race then beginning, and it is still going to be Alicia Palmovsky leading by just around a second. Of course, Harry Burgoyne Jr. in second place. Then we have Lucas Blakely. Then, of course, Grand Force. I knew you said the old Grand Force, of course.
Linus. I did that in the first race.
I know you did. Finn Harrison there sat behind, of course. All of them extremely close, but it is, I say, a good margin.
Yeah. This Palmovsky, you can hear cheers in the background, so there are clearly some fans out of the Agostini hairpin for Alicia Palmovsky, but she's drove an almost perfect race since the start. Again, the start was a bit of a struggle, but then she's moved forward in the race, applied the pressure for many, many laps, waited patiently for the perfect opportunity and seized it when she had the opportunity. A perfectly executed overtake. Burgoyne, I think, will be a little bit frustrated, but I think he will understand that he didn't quite have the pace of Palmovsky in this race, so if it stays the way it is, he'll be happy with a P2, another podium, although he will just want to get that monk off his back. He wants that first race win in the GB4 Championship, although we're talking about that, it's not quite done yet, as Blakely's applying the pressure into the final sector of the race.
No, certainly so. Well, of course, Harry Burgoyne Jr. was coached by Max Maserati last year, who did struggle to take a victory, but was still in contention as Lucas Blakely is getting closer and closer and closer for an attempt. The timer is ticked down to 0. We head through Coram, prepare ourselves for the braking zone at Murray's, which can catch you out if you get a little bit too complacent. I don't think Alicia Palmovsky has any issues with that. She comes to the final corner. We saw her win the very first race of 2024. Well, finally, she's back to the top step at the podium. Alicia Palmovsky will take victory for Elite, and Harry Burgoyne Jr. will settle for second behind. Blakely on the podium for back-to-back races, and championship leader Linus Grandforce is once again on the outside looking in when it comes to the podium.
That was an interesting race, though. It's not a huge amount of drama, other than Callum Baxter going up and down the field, but in the front, only one real overtake, but it was thrilling throughout because the pressure was being applied, and good to see from Palmovsky and Burgoyne, the sportsmanship there, giving each other a thumbs up. I think Grampus will be a little bit disappointed with that result. He did actually, he was right on the back of the race lead, made a small mistake in that one, which cost him the podium positions, and the Elite Motorsports team, they're also celebrating, but a great drive nonetheless from Palmovsky. She deserved that one. Burgoyne, another podium. Blakely, a second podium of this weekend after his win yesterday. He'll be happy with that. Potentially not as many tears as yesterday from Blakely, but you know what? I think we'll definitely allow him the emotions because they were running higher. And we'll see if Alicia will be just as emotional. I'm sure she'll be very, very happy regardless because she's been pushing hard. She's been wanting those results. At the start of the season, tipped her for the championship. She's not quite in the hunt in terms of points at the moment. 58 points before this race finished. That gap will have closed now.
That's why I said it was a must-win for her. That's why I say I get what you're saying. Maybe it's not a must-win, but this is reignite. This is starting the second half of the season again. We're now 11 races down. There's 10 left to go in 2024, and so beginning this second half of the season by taking that victory, by starting in the right footing, this is a very important moment for her and the championship challenge.
I completely agree, Lewis. I think this will give her a lot of confidence as well because she really had to work for that one. She didn't quite get the start she wanted. She then applied the pressure on, made the move when she had the opportunity and took it.
Well, indeed, we'll take a look at the provisional results, of course, from that race. And, of course, it is Alicia Palmovsky taking the victory. Harry Burgoyne Jr. in second place. Lucas Blakely in third. Of course, Grandforce in fourth position. Of course, Harrison, Wilson, Templeton, Grant, Taylor and Hickey will round out the top 10. Superb performance from Alicia Palmovsky at the front of the field, and plenty of dramas from those behind. Of course, the two that were missing from there, of course, 11th and 12th. That is Baxter and Bruce. Big shame for Callum Baxter, to be perfectly honest, after showing some great pace and unfortunately having the stall in the race start. Worked his way back up to 7th and still had a spin. Yeah,
Baxter had a dramatic race. He had good pace, actually. His fastest lap of the race was 49.8, only 4/10 off the fastest lap of the race, which was set by our eventual winner, Palmovsky, on the last lap as well. So Palmovsky was pushing on that last lap, but yeah, two mistakes from Baxter, one at the start and then one spin in the middle. But there we go. This is our top three, all deserving drivers. It's good to see such close racing. I'm really enjoying seeing the drivers mature and make some properly quality moves. And Alicia Palmovsky is a shining example of that. fist up in the air, very happy with that. You can hear the celebration from the team, hugs all round. And we'll very shortly be grabbing a word, or Naomi Newman will be grabbing a word with them when she can. But also, Goin Jr. and KMR Sport, they'll be disappointed but also satisfied with that result with a second and a third. Yeah, indeed, I will say. I'll update you with the Champions fans, don't worry, afterwards. But it will be Linus Granford still leading by 16 points over Harry Goin Jr. Alicia Palmovsky will close to 44 points. Behind. And again, the celebrations begin for the Elite Motorsports driver. And to be fair, it'll be a full reverse grid, by the way, for the next race, which will be from the qualifying order. So from the first race, it'll be a full reverse grid from that. So Alicia Palmovsky will be starting from 12th position, having to work her up. Handshake, of course, coming in from Lucas Blakely there. The expectation are that, to be perfectly honest with how things are, they can still take ourselves a very solid victory in the next race. You never really know with those. It's a 12-car reverse grid, so you just never really know, do you? Obviously, they are preparing themselves for the podium ceremony and preparing themselves for the interview with Naomi Newman. So we can see them just walking their way around and getting themselves in position. But again, superb performance from her. Oh, undoubtedly. And I think sometimes we forget how young these drivers are. These are 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and they're driving at a level which is so impressive. I mean, that race between all of the top five, they came together. There was a lot of battling, a couple of tiny bits of contact, but nothing crazy. And they're racing these cars, which are very quick. I mean, a reminder, these are Formula 4 level cars. It's a first step into full single-seater slicks and wings racing, and they may not look as fast as a Formula 1 car, for example, but they are way, way faster than any road car in the world. Well, I think we'll be getting ourselves ready for Naomi, and let's see what the top three have to say.
Alicia is now another race winner. Sorry, have the celebrations with Mum. Alicia, another race win for you. How does that feel?
I'm absolutely speechless, to be honest. Just so relieved. I certainly didn't make it easy. Very, very hard work. Just still struggled off the line a little bit. So the two guys from the second row had a huge launch, just got both me and Lucas. So managed to get Linus back into turn two. So that was a good start. And then just focused on getting my head down, making no mistakes, and trying to keep as close as possible to Harry, which is proved to be extremely difficult with the dirty air behind the aero wash. It was, especially around the high-speed corners in Sector 3, such as Coram, it was very difficult. But I'd started to learn what Harry was doing, and I noticed that he was braking a little bit early into Agostini. So I knew that if there was going to be an opportunity, then that was the corner it was going to be. So he went for it and managed to make the win stick, so over the moon.
And you're really keeping yourself in that championship fight, and looking forward to this afternoon. What are you going to be looking for?
I love reverse grid races. They're absolutely brilliant, completely different ball game and mentality needed. So we'll obviously be starting at the back row now, so completely different. Obviously damage limitation as well, because we've got great championship points so far in these two races, outscoring who I need to, as you mentioned. So I just need to make sure I'm still doing that. So be sensible and considered, but equally my sights to set as moving as high up as possible, so fingers crossed.
Congratulations, Alicia. We'll head over to Harry Burgoyne now. Harry, hard race for you. You fought really well. How was that for you in the car?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good race. I led most of the laps, and then Alicia, I went off track, and then Alicia, she sent up the inside of the next corner, but it was my mistake, my fault. I lost the one.
And you're fighting up there. You're consistent every time, which is a good thing. What are you hoping for this afternoon?
I know consistency is key, but win would be nice, obviously. But for this last race today, hopefully just get as many places as we can. Every place is a point, so we can't really go wrong with points.
Thank you very much, Harry. We'll head over to Lucas. He's over chatting to Tom Mills. We'll see if we can catch him now. Lucas, really hard racing out there. How was that for you in the car?
Yeah, very chaotic. First of all, congrats to Alicia. Fully deserved win. She did really well. Made the move into, I think it was T4. So yeah, well deserved. And on my side, I'm honestly kind of glad just to be on the podium, because when the 5-second board came on before the red lights for the start, I stalled the engine. I'm not quite sure how I managed it, but all of a sudden I was so yeah, managed to stall it, tried to start it up, hit the ignition off, had to put the ignition back on, got it started, and the engine was off like a second before the red lights came out. So the fact that I got off the line, not at the back, was first of all really good, and then yeah, managed. I think we had Linus, and it was chaos going up to T2. I think I don't know what happened with Linus, but he then went a little bit wide, so I got back underneath. So yeah, chaotic first few laps, and it was a really useful race for me to run in a sort of that close a pack with that much dirt air. That's not something I've really had a chance to do yet. So very, very useful for me to learn that now before the reverse grid race later on. But yeah, very happy to be back in the podium considering that my engine was off on the start. So yeah, I'll take it.
Thank you very much, Lucas.
Another excellent performance by Lucas Blakely there, another podium for him. It's great to see him doing well in his little sort of, I don't know, is he just visiting the series this time around? Something like that?
Super sub. We've had a lot of super subs recently, but he's doing very well.
A great drive from Alicia Palmovsky. We kind of discussed earlier what would happen at the start of the race and that she would need to get a good start. Just talk us through that start, because it was a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, the front row just didn't get away well, and it was a good start from the second row, basically jumped over. But Palmovsky didn't let that deter her, closed the gap to Burgoyne, kept the pressure on for most of the race, and it was in the last quarter of the race that she made the move, the last third of the race that she made the move, and it was a decisive move, it was an effective move, clean move, great racing. Not a huge amount of action in that race, but a great race nonetheless.
You have to have a lot of patience because, we watched her go round and round and round, because if you think about it, like waiting for Harry Burgoyne Jr. to make a mistake, that's one of the things you're thinking about, but also, not making a move too early and ruining your own race.
That's it, exactly. It was a perfect example of patience as a racing driver. Sometimes you don't take the first opportunity if you know that you're going to have more later on, because the first opportunity might not be the best. And if she'd have, because we just have some cars going around the racetrack here in Zandvoort, but if she'd have taken the first opportunity, she might have locked up, gone wide, potentially lost time to the drivers behind, and it would have been a much less easy victory.
I have absolutely no idea what you just said, because a lot of cars just went past us here at Zandvoort.
It was a great move. It was a great move by Palmovsky. Well timed.
Well done, Alicia. Congratulations. Great drive though from Harry, because to hold it together with that pressure behind, the dominating yellow car in the windscreen mirrors, it's gonna the wing mirrors, sorry, the windscreen mirrors, the wing mirrors. I can't hear myself think here. It's very loud at Zandvoort, very windy as well. But good drive for Harry, good drive from Lucas as well. And Linus, Liebert's Grand Force this weekend, hasn't made it onto the podium yet as a championship leader. He'd be very disappointed.
No, I mean, not many people would have bet that Grand Force wouldn't have made the podium in either of the first two races. He did really, really well to just stay in fourth place and pushed up for the podium. Actually made a slight mistake at the start of the race, but the margins are so fine in the first couple of laps. But you mentioned Burgoyne. He will be happy with that. He will know that's another podium. Second place, good haul of points, still closing in on the championship leader, Grand Force, but at the same time, he wants that race win. I'm sure he does. We'll hear from him.
All drivers want to win every race, but I'm sure when you wake up as a driver on a Monday morning with a load of trophies looking at you, I'm sure that's a little bit of just a bit of compensation really for not getting a race win.
He'll have that space saved on his mantelpiece. I'm absolutely sure of that, because you go racing to win, not just to come second or third. There's lots of famous quotes about that, and these drivers, Clary himself included, they're competitive, and especially him. He's raced at a very, very high level in karting, won many, many races. He knows the winning feeling. He wants to convert that into car racing, and once you get that first win, it feels like it gets easier and easier. We've seen it with Lando Norris in Formula One. It took him so long to get his first win, and ever since then, he's been getting more and more solid results, podiums, and it's not long, I think, until Burgoyne gets his first victory.
I'm sure it's not. Lewis mentioned on commentary then, the third race today is a reverse grid race, and all cars will be reversed. What does that mean?
That means that we're going to have a reverse grid. So because all of the drivers qualify within 103% of Alicia Palmovsky in terms of lap time, they're fully reversed. The reason that the 103% rule is in place is so that we don't have drivers who are far too far off the pace starting at the front of the field. But it's a closed grid this year, so all drivers reverse grid. So Palmovsky will be at the back of the field, and the drivers who are at the back will be at the front, and it brings the grid together rather than spreading it out. So it'll be hopefully an opportunity for the drivers to do some overtaking.
Excellent stuff. Well, Lewis is going to talk us through the highlights of that race, round 11 of the GB4 Championship.
Highlights from round 11 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and unfortunately for Baxter, there was a stall on the grid and he'd dropped back right to the rear of the field. Unfortunately for the front row, also for Alicia Palmovsky, a slow start, a slow one for Lucas Blakely, and it was the second row that would sweep their way through to take over the race lead. Harry Burgoyne Jr. up to first position and Linus Granfors up to second. There was contact though between the pair of them as they'd worked their way down to the Wilson hairpin. Just a slight mistake there, unfortunately, for Granfors, who would then run out wide before rejoining the race circuit in fourth position. Harry Burgoyne Jr. was feeling the pressure as Alicia Palmovsky was all over the rear end. A couple of mistakes here and there as Harry Burgoyne Jr. was certainly unsettled. Alicia Palmovsky could not quite find a way through until a big move down into Agostini. A huge send down the inside, pulls it up to the apex, did not give an opportunity over, unfortunately, to Harry Burgoyne Jr. And that would be it for her race. She would come through to take her second victory of 2024, and of course leaping over Harry Burgoyne Jr. and Lucas Blakely. A brilliant performance from Alicia Palmovsky to have taken that victory. Provisional standings, of course, after 11 races in the season. Linus Granfors, the championship leader, but that lead is being cut down. It is now just 16 points to Harry Burgoyne Jr. Of course, very provisional. Alicia Palmovsky sits just past 200 points, and she's racked up an excellent weekend so far with a second and a first place. Brandon McCacken, of course, still in fourth, despite unfortunately not taking part in the championship, at least not for now. Brandon Templeton in fifth, had a couple of dramas in that race with Callum Baxter in sixth position, despite having that stall on the grid, was working his way back up. Finn Harrison scoring some decent points, now seventh in the standings, with Jack Taylor, Liam Wilson and Chloe Grant rounding out the top 10 of the championship. But the question mark is Linus Granfors feeling the pressure from behind in the standings? Because coming into this weekend at Snetterton was looking strong, was looking almost basically dominant in the championship. But now things starting to look slightly more unsettled. Harry Burgoyne Jr. is closing his way in on the championship, but either way, we'll have to wait and see what happens later on in the day. We'll head down to Naomi, though, who's catching up with Leon Wilson.
Leon, an interesting race for you out there. How did you find it?
Yeah, well, we gained a place off the start because Baxter stalled, and then we went round the outside of Templeton to get another place and just fought really hard to keep him behind, and it worked in the end.
Yeah, and there was a lot of racecraft going on, a lot of different people trying to take different lines. And what are you going to hopefully take into the next race?
Hopefully, either we don't know if it's going to rain or yet, so hopefully we're going to look for a win in this next race. So, and hopefully go from there.
Thank you very much, Leon. We're going to see if we can catch anybody else. A lot of drivers are kind of just hanging around Parc Fermé and around the podiums. So we'll have a look to see if we can find Granfors would be ideal, but I'm not sure if anybody's hanging around. Let's have a look. Nobody around in Fortec. We did have a peek into KMR earlier where there weren't anybody else in there. But it's quite an interesting race out there, and Alicia had a really amazing race. Looking at her getting that overtake around Harry Burgoyne, and I think it was quite unfortunate for Harry Burgoyne because he's really looking to get that race win, but it's just not coming for him at the moment. But he's always remaining consistent. Not really finding anybody at the moment. It's quite spread out in the paddock here, GB4R. So we're just going to see, already had Wilson. But yeah, a really decent race from Blakely as well, I found. I think he had a really decent. But yeah, quite hard to find everyone around here, clearly. Just a briefing for race 3 with the reverse grid later on. And we will hand back over to Jonas and Piers in Zandvoort.
Yeah, so Naomi getting a little taste of what we had to deal with occasionally in GB4, where all the drivers ran away to look at the data and celebrate or commiserate with their teams. But as we say there, an excellent race. We've had 2 great races in the GB4 Championship so far. Reverse grid race, Piers, do we think Alicia Palmovsky can make up a lot of places from the back of the grid?
She'll certainly make up a lot of places, I reckon. It's going to be a case for all of the top guys and girls in the championship of keeping out of trouble, because the reverse grid race, it brings opportunity, but it also brings risk because you have to pass more cars if you want to make your way up the grid. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a good race, and make sure you don't miss that later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is around about 5:15 p.m. this evening, UK time. Plenty of time to watch that before the football, of course. You can check out all the GB4 information on the GB4 social media, and Randy's race reports are available on the GB4 website. We'll see you again at 5:15 for the final round of the weekend of the GB4 Championship at Snetterton.